What's up, guys? We're back here on the podcast with Alan Sanchez. We're going to be looking into CJI, going into the brackets, some of the thoughts. This is an incredible tournament with $1 million on the line.
Yeah.
Definitely making history with that one, Craig.
No, big time.
So let's get into it. It's pretty interesting when we look at it. The rule sets, he's definitely doing something special with that we haven't seen done, because he seems like he's taking on a little bit more of like an MMA approach.
Yeah.
It looks like it's going to be 3 5-minute rounds and a 1-minute break in between. Man, I got mixed emotions on that. You definitely see that in boxing and MMA, but for jiu-jitsu, a break in between rounds.
Yeah, it's like in jiu-jitsu, it's nice to have that longer time period, but I could also see the benefits of it where like, it's like, I don't know, kind of like gives that open mat vibe of like, what if these guys just rolled like 3 times? Like,
So it's like
little
the
by
best
little,
out
how
of
would
three.
it go, Yeah.
I think that it's actually going to be beneficial for the audience. So the audience is going to get a lot more energy out of the athletes, so a higher pace. And so all the athletes that really favor that higher pace, like the Rotolos and the Tackets, giving them like a 60-second break in between to get back after it, that can make a lot of a difference. What I thought was also interesting is the judges are going to be giving their scoring. So it's
Live scoring,
It's a live scoring.
Yeah.
So it's a 10-point system, and they're doing a live scoring. But I think that's really beneficial. Like, I wish they would do that in the UFC. Like, you'd be watching a UFC fight and you don't know who's winning. Like, is the judges going to screw this? Well, you can know right then and there who's winning it. What I also thought was interesting, and this is where I don't know how I feel about it either, is if there's a draw. If there's a draw, the rule is that whoever won the 3rd round wins.
I like that. It's like Pride rules, like whoever wins the last of the fight, it's like, that's the most important part.
But I think finals are 5.
Finals are 5 rounds.
So are they still going to say the 3rd round, or are they saying last round? Because when I was watching about the rules that they decided to do, it said 3rd. They didn't say last round.
I'm sure, I guess, I would probably just assume 5th round for that final, for sure. And then, it would probably be harder to tie in that final, I would guess.
You're probably right, but if they did the 3rd, it'd be really awkward in the sense that you'd like,
middle
man,
round.
I killed it in the 4th and 5th, but this guy killed.
Yeah.
You know.
No, for sure. I hope it's the 5th round if that's the case. Maybe they need to word it where it's the last round, so it's less confusion.
And almost everything's legal, right? Like, you're allowed to slam, but only out of submission, so similar to ADCC in that aspect. What they're not allowing is talon grabs to the throat, no throat crushes,
Right.
and no groin grabs. So
Yeah.
I thought that was an interesting one. I was like,
It's going to ruin some people's game.
it ruins a lot of what I was expecting for Gabby versus Craig, because I thought Gabby was just going to grab and crush his life and just destroy him.
That's one way to submit someone, for sure. Yeah.
But in all fairness, oil checks are not on the illegal list. But
Yeah, I get like a butt drag in wrestling.
I think Craig's immune to those anyway, so I don't think Gabby could tap him with it. But the scoring system is going to be based on who's initiating. I like that. Close to submission or dynamic action, right? So I'm guessing that's their equivalent of like an advantage, right? Positional control, and they're going to be giving penalties for stalling and passive, right? So I think overall that's good. And I actually think it's interesting because it's like they're not giving like a set point value for each position. They're just saying this is declared as a dominant position.
Right,
So
yeah.
you're getting in the judge's favor for that.
Yeah, it's not like mounts 4, submissions 5. It's just like, what do the judges think?
And what's interesting about that too is that you might be in a dominant position in a lot of other tournaments, but because you're down on points, you might give up that dominant position just so that you can go to another dominant position to transition it up. But with this, it just sounds like if you're in a dominant position, you're getting favored. So you're getting more control time in that area versus, is it more beneficial? Like if you have mount, is it more beneficial for you to just stay in mount and then keep chasing like I had an arm choke? Or look at it as points and say, man, I got to transition to the back because I'm going to lose this tournament otherwise?
I would think the head and arm, like whatever your best bet to get a submission is. Like that's the way it should be geared towards, you know.
Yeah, but like most tournaments, if you were down, say by an advantage, say it's 4-4, you're in mount by an advantage, right? Like you have to go and put more points on the board. You know what I mean? So I think it's interesting. I think they did a pretty good job at it. Man, it's like a fantasy football team, like the ultimate team, but the under 80 is crazy. The under 80,
Yeah.
you have the first match is going to be Ty Rotolo versus Jason Nolf.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a sick match because like Jason Nolf in this bracket is interesting, and that's a cool matchup because like Ty's gonna actually stand with him, so we can actually see like some stand up between, you know, Ty, who's like jiu-jitsu wise definitely one of the better stand up guys, and then Jason Nolf, who, you know, has a win over Jordan Burroughs and was like at the Olympic trials, and I think he's like a 3-time NCAA champ, something like that. He's insane. He's like really good wrestling wise.
I like what you hit on because I think Ty is one of the few guys that will stand with somebody. Like he knows what Jason brings to the table.
Yeah.
And he's going to be like, cool, welcome to my world. I'm going to like introduce you to some stand-up submission style.
No, he's
like,
got wrestle jitsu.
Yeah, wrestle jitsu. That's what I'm thinking of. Like where he's going to be throwing in, you know, Kimura's into the mix. He's going to be ducking in for the back. I think it's a really interesting matchup. It wasn't in my initial, you know, fantasy CGI bracket matchup, but I really think that one came out really good. The next one that they got on there is Roberto Jimenez versus Levi.
Yeah, 2 back takers.
That's going to be interesting. Yeah. Who do you got on that one?
I mean, I think I lean towards Roberto.
Interesting.
Yeah, I just feel like Roberto's like one of the best people out there, especially if no heel hooks. He might be like the GOAT, you know, if like heel hooks weren't a thing.
I mean, that scene definitely seems to be his weakness, but I think it's going to be a question. To me, this is kind of like, I know this is a totally different matchup, but this is kind of like when we saw J-Rod versus Tynan. To me, it's very similar in the sense that like J-Rod's really like good with dynamic and lots of movements. I think similarly, Roberto's really good in scrambles and lots of movements. I think Levi, his whole game is going to be to slow it down. And it's going to be Roberto's whole game to get lots of movement and lots of action. And that's kind of what we saw with that Tynan match where Tynan needed to slow J-Rod down because if the movements were going to happen, J-Rod would have capitalized and found an opportunity.
But I was going to say that was one 15-minute match too, though, where this one's the 3-5s. So then that slowing down is going to be a little bit harder. That's 5 minutes.
And so the rule set might favor Roberto in this. The rule set's going to favor all those fast-paced guys, the Tackett's, the Rotolos, all of them.
Yeah.
All right. I kind of wonder if I should change my mind on that one.
That's just my quick thought. I mean, Levi's clearly a beast. He's gonna pull guard, but Roberto's he's got good guard passing, good like back takes off the passing. So he's like not even really trying to pass like to side control necessarily. Not that he wouldn't, but he's more gonna he'll use his passing to get to your back. But we'll see because, I mean, Levi's been working with Lachlan, so you know he's gonna have, I would guess,
some
good leg attacks to mix in along with his like Berimbolo system.
But don't you think Roberto by now he's had to have sat down with a couple leg lockers and be like, just fire on me?
No, 100%. And he's doing his camp at Unity.
Oh,
which is where Levi used to train at, and it's like, you know, I'm thinking like that's where Levi had a lot of his like formative years, and so a lot of the kind of game that he plays is from that Unity style, and so he's getting that. I mean, Levi has such a unique game that it's like not like he's really getting that specific look, but he's getting like similar enough looks, and then I don't know how much they're trying to like have dressing room secrets or whatever, but if they're willing to share information on Levi and tell him stuff.
Man, did he split off from Unity? I actually don't know that one.
I mean, I think he's originally from Australia, and then I don't know like whole story, but I think like sometime in the color belts he like was at Unity for like a while, and then at some point he went back to Australia and then was training up like with Lachlan and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing too. Is all the Australians that flight's horrible. Like Craig's talked about it a bunch. Is that like flying all the way for all the tournaments? So having like a second home team or a second team that you're a part of in the U.S. is definitely beneficial to you. Next up on it, we go into Lucas Barboza versus Kenta.
Yeah, that's a
That's a
crazy one.
That's a weird one. I think honestly, Barboza. I'm really surprised that Barboza is under 80.
I am not, just because he's done 170 a few times. He's done MMA 170, and he's done jiu-jitsu 170 before too, like this like tournament way back in the day with like DJ Jackson and like Gary Tonin were in. I forget what it was called.
He's not the tallest,
He's not the tallest.
but he's thick.
He is yoked for sure.
How? But like, I've seen him when he's thick, and I'm like, dude, I don't think it's possible to make 170.
But I mean, he's done it before, and this is like 80 kilos is like 176 or something, right? So he's done 170 before. He has 5 more pounds where he can keep, and it's like a day before weigh-in situation too. And for all I know, they only have like one weigh-in, so it's like 2-day event. So one weigh-in the day before. So let's see.
That's another thing that I'm wondering about with this rule set is how it's going to favor people that are making these big cuts. Because in ADCC, like historically, you had to make weight twice, right?
3 times.
Yeah, or 3 times, yeah, historically. And
Yeah.
so, like, those weight cuts, that drained you completely. And I think the people that played more of like a Gordon style, where you're doing low energy output, high reward, that was probably the best strategy. Versus now, this rule set might be really favoring those high-paced individuals and giving people the opportunity to pick up the pace. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking it really does have a lot of factors that's going to be beneficial for the fans. Yeah, it's interesting to think about. Next one, we got Andy Varela versus Joseph Chen. I'm honestly not too excited about this one.
No?
No, because it just happened.
Yeah, super.
It just happened. If it was, they did this rematch like a year, 2 years later, they both had a couple other wins under their belt and then ran it back, I think there just hasn't been enough time from the match to make those adjustments. I'd like to see it because Andy's a motherfucker and Joseph is a motherfucker right now. Dude, that Joseph is on, he's on fire.
He's been killing it. And yeah, but it's all, like, again, it's also, it's going to be different with those like 5 minutes versus like, I'm not exactly sure what that last match was. Was it like a 10 with a 5-minute OT, something like that?
I don't remember. I just remember
And Joseph won an OT, I think.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
I just know the result. I saw the build up and then I saw the result.
He like swept him with like butterfly guard straight to mount, something like that, and that's kind of how it happened. And I'm sure like Andy's gonna make some good adjustments from that, and Andy's explosive.
Andy's style, exactly. Andy's style for CGI is another example of where he really, really might shine in this rule set.
Oh yeah.
Throw in a couple backflips here and there, get a 60-second warm, reset, and then come back at it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's more interesting than I thought.
Yeah. No, but I hear you. It's like
I just like seeing. When I like seeing rematches, I don't like seeing it rerun right away. It's the same thing in the UFC where you see a guy lose, and then he gets an immediate rematch. It's like, nah, let them go back and get a couple more matches in, develop a little bit more, come back, and then reset it.
Depends for which guy though, because I feel like for Joseph it's like, oh man, I already just beat this super tough guy. Like, let me go against someone else, and then Andy's probably like, I want that match back.
Andy wants that back 100%. Andy's the type of guy that 100%, like, if you get the better of him, he's gonna come back with a vengeance. Which, you know what? Maybe I need to take it back.
We'll see.
But we'll see. Next one that's super interesting is Kate Rotolo versus Mateus Denise.
Yeah.
That one's gonna be interesting because I feel like we also haven't seen that much of Mateus recently. Kay, we've only been seeing really a lot in one.
Mm-hmm.
But there's got to be a size difference between those two.
For sure. Yeah, Mateus is one of those dudes also where he's like big guy. That's kind of surprising he's making this under 80. But
him and Barboza are probably the biggest in the bracket.
Yeah, him, Barboza, and Owen or Flanagan. Those are the biggest. Those are like the 200-pounders making like 175.
Yeah. Wait, are you talking about Owen O'Flanagan? Is that how you pronounce his first name?
Yeah, Owen.
It's Eoghan.
I know it's like spelled like Egan or something, but I'm like fairly certain it's pronounced Owen.
So like, for me, I'm horrible with names. Like, I'm horrible with names. Like, I read through the list and I was like, all right, I want to hear someone else pronounce it first. And I heard his name pronounced like 5 different ways. And I was like, God damn, I'm just going to say Flanagan. So I'm glad you beat me too,
Fair
because
enough.
that's one of the other matches. We're 2 away from that one.
Yeah, get there.
But Mateus versus Cade, that's going to be really interesting. I actually think that Cade's going to catch him slipping, make Mateus make a mistake, and I think he's going to take his back.
No, he should be more technical for sure. Mateus is just like, he's just like a caged animal, just ready to just go ham, you know? But like, his big thing is he's just like, I don't know, he seems to be really good at the hand fight, and so is Cade. You know, Cade's just gonna paw at the head like nonstop. So
I look at it as kind of like literally, like stylistically, I'm going to the animal kingdom with this, but I'm gonna say it's like literally like a mongoose and a cobra, where I think Mateus is the cobra in this situation, and I think that Cade's just gonna keep picking, and then he's gonna slip and he's gonna get in on the back. That's my vision. We'll see if it happens.
and these guys, those are the 2 ADCC champs in the bracket, right? And
That's
they go,
right.
like, first round.
That's right.
It's pretty
Just
crazy.
taking all the ADCC
That's
champs and
pretty
putting them
crazy.
first round.
Right away.
Next up on the match is Hinato versus Langkicker.
Langkicker.
I'm horrible with the names.
Just say Tommy.
That's the best way. I'm actually really excited for this one. Honestly, I'm a big Hinato fan. So anytime Hinato's competing, I'm a fan to watch the matches. He brings in the same kind of energy that Andy Varela does, and I think they actually train together.
They at least have in the past. I don't know if they still do, but they're both in Vegas.
Yeah, I mean they both just like backflipping through everybody's guard and making it entertaining. So
And that's a rematch too, but it's like it's been years because they had a match at 1 where it was like a close decision, but Tommy won that one.
he got the decision on that one.
He got the decision on that. He got like the 50K bonus and all that.
Oh damn.
Yeah, and so I'm sure Hinato wants that one back, and then Tommy knows that he can win it since he has before. So that's a good match.
Interesting. Next we go to Majid versus Owen.
Yep.
Interesting. So I think in like this goes back to the rule set. I think in like a 15-minute straight match, I'd probably go with Flanagan.
For sure, yeah.
And I
15.
think that if we're putting in the 5s, I think it goes to Majid.
Majid has a better chance.
Yeah.
I mean, Owen's still like super technical. He's got to be the favorite in this matchup, but I agree with
Just
what you said.
because the leg entanglements and stuff. But Majid, he's been working a lot on his legs,
He's
right?
got it,
Same as
yeah.
Roberto. They both kind of had that weakness there a little bit,
Yeah.
but I think that those weaknesses are getting far between. The last one's probably my favorite matchup, and I'm really kind of bummed that they put this in the first round because it's crazy to put this. This could have been a finals match, in all honesty. It could have been.
Yeah.
But Andrew Tackett versus Nicky Ryan. Do you think Nicky got into like Craig's ear and is like, dude, who's the number 1 pick? Ty and Tackett are the 2 number 1s by most picks?
I mean,
He said he wants Tackett.
well, I mean, it was just like a random draw as far as we all know, so it just kind of happened.
As far as we all
I'm
know.
surprised that Tackett wasn't like a top 4 seed over Joseph. Like, Joseph's beaten Tackett before, but Tackett more recently beat Joseph. Like, I mean, that was like 2 years ago, but still. So, but I guess Joseph's just like, he's the big thing right now for sure.
He's got a lot of momentum behind him right now.
Big time.
But Nicky Ryan, dude, I mean Nicky Ryan could be like the best if his body would hold up. I feel like that's kind of like his whole thing is his body just keeps shutting down on him, you know, with his knees and stuff like that. You see it in his wrestling matches. His wrestling's good now. He used to be just a leg locker, but really developed from there. Who are you gonna give it on that to?
Oh man, I go Tackett, personally.
Interesting.
I would think.
Even though Nicky Ryan just beat JT Torres.
Yeah, but I think Tackett would be JT Torres.
Wow.
Yeah.
I might not be wrong though. Honestly.
I mean, PJ beat JT, and Andrew, I feel like, did like super. He beat PJ kind of comfortably. Yeah, who's number 1 with like a broken back.
So let's go into your top 3 then.
Top 3
Top 3 for the bracket under 80.
based on how this bracket goes out.
Yeah.
Um, hmm. I honestly, I feel like Roberto could go for.
So Roberto's your number one pick?
I could see him winning, honestly, just by the way the bracket kind of went out. Like, he has no, like, leg lockers on his side. Like, Ty is probably the closest thing to someone that could catch him with the leg lock, and
And they faced before.
they have, and Roberto's beaten him. I think. I'm pretty sure. It was like those, like...
I thought didn't they do like a who's number one or something like that?
They did, well, there was like those third coast grappling things that were happening back in the day that aren't around anymore.
I thought they did semi-recently they had a match, like within the last 2 years.
Well, like before ADCC, there was a thing called Road to ADCC,
Yeah.
and Roberto beat Cade. But it was like...
Oh, yeah.
But it was like Roberto was supposed to go against like Andrew Wiltsey, and then Andrew Wiltsey pulled out like the week of, and they got Cade like last minute.
That would have been an interesting person to put into the mix if they had Andrew Wiltsey in here.
Yeah, but he hasn't like done
Competed,
anything
he has been
in like
competing.
years.
I wonder what happened to him, because he was pretty active.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. Keeping up with him.
So your first number pick is Roberto?
No, I mean I feel like I gotta go Ty, honestly. I think Ty's probably gotta be it's hard not to go Ty, realistically. And then number 2, it's hard not to go like Cade. And then I think 3, I would probably put Tackett.
I think we're not too far off. Ty's my number one pick. I think Ty, especially the way the bracket looks, I think he's most likely to take it. Joseph Chen is my number 2 pick, because if Joseph can pull off that win, I think it can go to Joseph. Now the really hard part for me is for number 3, because I'm like 50-50 either way, that it's either going to be Tackett or Cade. It's one of those two, and I struggle with that one.
Yeah.
I mean, has Cade and Tackett even faced each other before?
I mean,
People
not like
commenting.
not like as adults. So I did I did like ADCC trials in like West Coast like 2019 or something like that, and they were like 15-year-olds, both of them in like 66 kilos, and I think they had a match. I'm pretty sure Cade got Tackett with a Darce, but that was so long ago. They're like
Completely different now.
yeah, it's a whole new match.
And so I'm just gonna leave it at 4. I guess they have a top 4 pick for me, because I can't really pick between Tackett and Cade there. But my dark horse pick is gonna be Andy Varela. I think Andy Varela, with the rule set, it's gonna be an interesting mix-up for there. And specifically when it talks to the judges about like engagement, right? Like he's really good at being the one to move first, right?
Yeah.
And kind of push that pace. So I'm gonna go with Andy Varela for the dark horse, but I think the top 3 for me is Ty, Joseph Chen, and then that's split for third between Tackett and Cade.
Yeah, I think for me, if I'd probably put the 1, 2, 3 as like Ty, Cade, and then Tackett, and then Andy's who I would like want to win.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's the hardest thing with doing this. Like, I was looking through all these brackets, and I'm like, well, obviously, like, I'm friends with this person or the 10th planet, so I'm usually going to be rooting for them 99% of the time.
That's the one that would like bring me the most joy of like these guys, the ones that would win. But
bro, if Andy won, I would lose my mind.
Yeah,
I'd
but
lose my mind.
my dark horse I think is gonna be Roberto. Like I could see Roberto taking this bracket for sure. It wouldn't be like crazy shocking to me.
I think so. That's not a bad one. Let's jump into over 80. Over 80, the first match that we have is Nicky Rod versus Max Gimenez. I'm just going to go with Nicky Rod on this one, because I think his takedowns are better, right? And so who's going to win the takedown battle? It's most likely going to be Nicky Rod. And I don't think Max has enough of a guard to really stop Nicky's passing.
Yeah.
You know? And that's kind of the question. Like, will you see Nicky do well against people that he can stay on top of, right? In this case, like, there's a couple wrestlers like Pat that he might not be able to take down, so it's a little bit more questionable there. And then the other time that he doesn't do good is if someone has like a really dynamic guard, like someone like a Felipe Peña's guard, or like a Victor Hugo, right? Like he had losses there with Victor Hugo's guard. But I don't think Max has that one.
No, I mean, Max has really good jiu-jitsu, but yeah, I'm definitely going Nicky Rod on this one. I just, like everything you said, I think Nicky Rod's going to be the one that's going to be able to get on top and yeah, just kind of control it, and then from there, either pass and just kind of win a good decision or take the back and then get a choke. Yeah.
Next up, Muhammad Ali versus Owen Lively.
That's a sick match.
That's fucking fireworks,
That's a
bro.
sick match.
That's fireworks, bro.
Yeah.
But it's interesting too, though, is this, because the winner of this goes against Nicky Rod.
It's a rematch either way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That makes it really interesting.
It's hard not to go Muhammad Ali, honestly. I mean, Owen's a beast, but like size-wise, like.
But dude, where's Muhammad Ali been? He's been teaching and running an academy. He has not been active.
Been knocking fools out in MMA.
Wait, is that what he's been doing? I thought he started a gym. Isn't that what he's been focusing on?
I think so, but I feel like every now and then, like a clip will pop up where, like, you know, he's super early in his MMA career, so he's just fighting like other people that are really early in their MMA career. So like, he's just like some poor guy has to fight Muhammad Ali and just gets KO'd.
I always think it's interesting, like, when you see super high level black belts and then you see them in like amateur MMA matches.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, whoever the other guy's coach was that like accepted that match,
How?
you do not give a shit about your guy.
Yeah.
Or he's the best thing that's walked the planet and you're like, you believe in him 110%.
You're just playing delusional, you know?
Or there's that. There's a lot of that in MMA.
Yeah.
I just see red, bro.
No.
But
Muhammad Ali's huge, dude.
what's really interesting is that if you actually look at that left side of the bracket, we're going to get into it more, but Nicky's are beaten at least, we'll see, 3 of the guys on there. He's beaten Muhammad Ali, he beat Kyle Bain, and he beat Luke Rockhold, and they're all on that same side.
Yeah, but he didn't beat Pat Downey.
He lost to Pat Downey. But he's also on the complete opposite side.
I don't see Pat Downey making the semis though.
I don't see it either. But it's an interesting thing. A little conspiracy here. I wouldn't be 10th Planet if I didn't have one. $1 million on the line. Craig's in charge of it. Coincidentally, 3 people that he's beaten get on the same side of his bracket. The other side of the bracket's gnarly.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that one. The next one on the match I'm actually really excited for is Kyle Bone versus Adam Bradley, because that match had a lot of controversy about it behind it before the ADCC trials.
Yeah.
With the scoring system on that one. It was interesting too because I was talking to Mo about it, and on the live stream Mo went from this was a fuck up, Kyle should have got it, and then he rewatched it again. He said, oh no, it's actually should have went. It was a correct decision to Bradley. And it had to do with the ADCC rule that it has to be one continuous motion, right? Because Kyle starts to sweep him and then goes to a leg and then falls back for it, and then because of that, I guess, I'm actually chopping that up a little bit, but because it wasn't one continuous sweep and there was a submission mixed into it, it nullified the points for ADCC's scoring system.
Yeah, ADCC just gets I feel like those rules just, they're outlined, but they're also like, they're too subjective sometimes. Or it's just like, depending on the ref, depending on the day, depending on the time, it's just like, what's the call gonna be?
I mean, that's literally what happened with, what was that guy when me and you were at the ADCC Vegas? You had that match against the guy from Unity.
Oh yeah, Sebastian Rodriguez.
And then...
Oh yeah, when he passed, but I was like, on my side.
Exactly.
So it's like not supposed to be.
And that was so hard for me because I'm sitting there with Santana by Merlo.
Yeah.
And him and his deep ass was like, there's points, and the ref got nervous. I'm like, points. I'm like, no, bro. Me and him were like yelling at him, and that was actually right before he pulled the knife out on another dude. It was one match.
He had a knife.
I'm like yelling at him. I'm like, bro, that's not
points. I'd give him the
points.
points too, dude.
You know, if I'd have known he had a knife in his cross, I wouldn't, I wouldn't have yelled at him.
Fair enough.
But, that would for me, and the interesting thing was I met up with that ADCC ref at the hotel, because we were in the same hotel that next day. Yeah, and I was like, bro, do me a favor. He was so annoyed at me. I was like, dude, just
explain it.
I'm not a dick. I'm not here to yell at you. We compete at ADCC regularly. We're going to continue to support it, but we got to understand these rules.
Yeah.
Please watch this and tell me what I missed. And he said that it was a fuck up on his part. He said he fucked up. So
yeah, sick.
So, gotta rub that one in again.
Yeah.
Next one, actually going to be very interesting, is Pat Downey versus Luke Rockhold. I don't know if Pat Downey can beat Luke Rockhold.
He could, dude. He could.
You think so?
I mean, I think he shouldn't. I think Luke should definitely win, but I could also just see Luke Rockhold just like trying to hand fight him, and then that's just kind of where it goes. And then I think anybody that tries to hand fight Pat's gonna be like,
in for a rude awakening.
yeah. I mean, honestly, like this is where like on this corner, I feel like whoever wins that Bradley versus Bang matchup has a pretty good chance to make it to the semis, just because I see them probably beating the one below. You know, I mean, we have the brackets for a reason, so we'll see what happens, but that's kind of what it looks like to me, just because, yeah, they're both more like stand-up guys, and then Bradley and Bam are going to be more like guard pullers that are going to actually make it jiu-jitsu, so.
I'm actually curious to see how serious Luke is taking this, because like it's not UFC. It's not UFC. Well,
Yeah.
It is more than UFC money actually. It's $1 million on the line, right?
Yeah.
But like if you see any of his videos or any of his posts, so he's on his story and stuff, like Luke's like smoking cigarettes and like drinking at clubs and parties. But maybe he's just John Jones where he needs to party a little bit to perform. But you know. I'm curious on how serious he's actually taking this, because I know a lot of these other guys, they're taking this super serious.
You could say the same about Pat Downey. Like, I don't know
How serious he's taking this?
yeah, like I don't know.
I gotta ask that for all the wrestlers, because there's so many wrestlers in here, and then like I think a lot of them think they can do probably pretty good, but I think deep down inside they know they're probably not going to be beating a Victor Hugo or a William Tackett or. Or there's the delusion that they think they can.
But I mean, we go to like Jason Nolf, who's, dude, he's like one of the best collegiate wrestlers, you know. And
but so that's great. But how is he going to pass Victor Hugo's guard?
Well, I mean, Nolf's in a different. I mean, like
you know,
say like
no. I'm saying like you. Yeah, I know they're different backgrounds.
Yeah.
I'm saying like someone same thing. How is he going to pass Mickey Ryan's guard? You know what I mean? It's like all the wrestlers in here, I think they make for a lot of excitement. I think that's what Craig's trying to do is like the rule set, putting in these wrestlers, it's a high pace, it's going to be exciting. But at the end of the day, I'm not too excited about all these wrestlers because I just don't think that I think they're in a different world. It's like when you bring in these MMA guys into boxing and boxing guys into MMA, it's like, sure, one-offs can happen, but they're two different sports.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on the style and how committed they could be to it, because it's like they don't necessarily have to.
They only have like 6 months.
Well, they don't have to beat them with jiu-jitsu. You know, they can just shut them down, and if they can just stop them from doing anything to them and just like have like one good moment in the round, then they.
But keep in mind the stalling calls too. So if they're disengaging out of those guards, right?
Yeah.
But I think there was actually a rule, and I didn't say it earlier, but I think there's a rule that you can't be on your butt for longer than a certain amount of time without having an upper body connection. So basically open guard.
So you can't just be like playing open guard.
Yes. I don't quote me on that, but I remember reading something about that there was some kind of rule that they put in place about sitting and upper body connection for X amount of time, which actually is an interesting rule in general. It makes jiu-jitsu more entertaining.
It's almost like the get down rule, but the get up rule.
Yeah, the get up rule, you know. But you know what's funny is this is like I think that like everybody shits on guard pullers and they really want to just like say it's like stop playing guard and all that because it's too boring or whatever. I would argue that two guys just fucking fighting for grips from stand up can be way more boring.
Oh yeah.
Like some of these takedown battles are much worse to watch.
Well, it's like you get these guys that are supposed to be the best in the world at jiu-jitsu, and then it's like this guy's pulling guard, so it's like, all right, well, let's do jiu-jitsu, and it's like, no, man, let's stand up and let's do mediocre wrestling.
Yeah, exactly. Let's do mediocre. That's where CJI is not going to have mediocre wrestling.
No.
They're going to have some good wrestling. They should have some good wrestling.
Yeah.
Next, you have Victor Hugo versus, was it Lucan Kennard?
Lucas Kennard.
Lucas Kennard.
Yeah. The Australian trials winner.
Victor Hugo, I mean, he's one of my top 3 picks.
Yeah, it's hard to see anybody beating Victor Hugo. honestly.
He's gonna be. He's definitely in the top 3. I think he's in everybody's top 3. He's in mine for sure.
Yeah. No, I'm sure Lucas is a beast, but he won 88 kilos, which makes me think he's probably like 210 max. And Victor Hugo is
Huge.
huge.
Bro, we went to the Brazilian Steakhouse in San Jose, and then like I was my first time actually meeting Victor, like outside of like walk by and jiu-jitsu. I was just sitting next to him and I'm like, Jesus Christ, dude. Like, you're like another level of huge.
Yeah.
You
No,
know?
dude, in 2018, I got bronze in like Nogi Worlds at brown belt. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna do absolute. And the first match I get Victor Hugo.
Did you?
I did.
How do I not remember this?
Dude, because we just try to forget about it that it ever happened, but it did. And I remember, like, you know, you go on the mat, you shake the ref's hand, and like you look at him, and I'm like, oh shit, this is a huge guy.
Huge dude.
But you know.
Actually, no, I take that back. I met him at Freaks Camp. He was down there at Freaks Camp.
Because Sanjay was teaching.
When Sanjay was teaching.
Yeah.
But he was kind of like not a big name yet.
He was Sanjay's Uke.
Exactly. He was the Uke.
Yeah.
Next up, Inacio Santos versus Pedro Alex. I honestly don't know enough about either of them.
So, I know Pedro Alex beat Big Dan Nogi at ADXC, but it was one of those like, I think Big Dan had like, apparently they contractually like had a weight class, and Big Dan didn't know until like the day of, and so he like suddenly cut like crazy weight for it.
I remember hearing this on his story actually.
But Pedro's definitely mostly known for the gi. I was watching South American Trials when Inacio won it, and he looked impressive for sure. He looked like a tough guy to beat, you know. So I'm gonna go Inacio for sure in this matchup. Yeah, just because Pedro hasn't really, I don't know. I'm not like I've seen crazy amount of matches of him, but
I don't know enough about either of them, so I'm not gonna make a pick on that one. The next one, I'm gonna struggle on his name, bro.
Dan Kirkliet.
How do you say it?
I'm pretty sure it's Kirkliet. I feel like the V is silent.
Bro, I struggle. This is like honestly like names in general, but it's the same thing for me. Is like when I do promotions, like I know my guys. I'll be like, oh, it's my guy Dan,
Yeah.
right? But like in front of everybody, when you go to call him up on promotion day, you gotta call him by his last name. And that's where I fuck up royally on my own guys. I fuck up, and I'm like, dude. Especially I got a couple guys from like the Eastern European bloc. And they got a couple extra V's and a couple extra I's in there, and I'm like, bro, you're gonna have to help me with this one. But him, and then Felipe Andrews. Yeah. Felipe Andrews is a monster.
He is.
I think he's actually probably one of the more overlooked people in this bracket.
Yeah, but he's also mostly gi. And dude, Kirkliet is. I mean, I know it's like a different game, but he's good. Like NCAA wise, like he won NCAA's this year, 285, and just made it look easy. Like it was like not even a problem. And as far as like the training room stories at Penn State, like you hear a lot of good things about him.
So you're gonna go with Dan on this one?
I kind of hope Dan wins just because I think it'd be fun.
It would be fun.
It'd be fun for the wrestler to get one. But I mean, Felipe Andrews got good. He's got a good footlock, and I feel like if you're gonna beat a wrestler, it's like pull guard, get under them, and then footlock them. But again, I feel like Felipe's more of a gi person, so yeah, we'll see how I'm excited for that matchup. I think like that one is like I don't think Felipe's gonna like hand fight him. I don't think that'd be smart. So yeah, we'll see. I think Felipe should win, but I kind of hope Dan wins just to make it interesting.
Next up, Rocha versus William Tackett.
Jeez.
I think Rocha is not a slouch. He's pretty fucking good.
No.
But I don't think he's Tackett good.
No, I think well, skill for skill, Tackett should definitely win. It's just Rocha's just a massive person. He's huge. Yeah. So
I'm gonna probably go Tackett on that one. Top 3. I think especially with the way the brackets are made. I know I'm going back into this of being a little bit of a conspiracy nut here. I think it really favors Nicky Rod. I think the brackets really are in his favor, but I'm going to go Nicky Rod as my number 1 pick. I think William Tackett is my number 2 pick, and Victor Hugo is my number 3. The reason being is I think that Tackett's have incredible cardio, and with this being a high-paced style rule set, I think Victor Hugo being a bigger guy, I don't know how his cardio is going to be towards the end of it. Whereas by the time I think Tackett hit him face before the semis, I think Tackett's going to have a higher pace of energy, and I think it can go to Tackett between those. And then William Tackett versus Nicky Rod, that's going to be a fucking battle. So I think those are my top 3. My dark horse, though, Luke Rockhold. I think Luke Rockhold is my dark horse, and I think most people wouldn't pick him, but we trained a lot with Luke back at Empower. So he used to go to Tark Azim's all the time, and he would come through there and train with us, Jake, and all the guys. And dude, he was a fucking monster. I was really surprised. The first time Jake told me that Luke Rockhold was coming into training, I was like, okay, whatever. Like, he's like an AK, he's a kickboxer. What does he know about grappling? And then Jake's like, he's pretty good though, just be ready. And I was like, okay. But he was a bad motherfucker. Like, he's like a top level grappler.
I think he won like No-Gi Worlds like purple or blue or something too. At least that's what Wikipedia says. That's what Wikipedia says.
Yeah, I don't know exactly, but I think and that's just kind of like insider trading. I think Luke Rockhold, and I mean it's not even insider trading at this point because even Craig's been talking about it, and like everyone nowadays I think is talking about that Luke's pretty, and he had a match with Nicky Rod.
And I remember when he was in the UFC, like when he was like at the top of his game in the UFC, like he had some of the sickest submissions, like that mounted guillotine he got on Michael Bisping. That was sick. He got this like crazy inverted triangle to Kimura or Americana or something on Tim Bosch. So like when he was making his title run, I remember him being like crazy creative with the grappling that was like just slick, and obviously he had good stand up too, so he did a really good job of like mixing everything together. And so yeah, no, he's got some sick grappling for sure. But
Top 3?
I think Victor Hugo is my 1. I got Nicky Rod as the 2, and then Tackett as the 3. That's my thoughts on the
Any sleepers or dark horses for you?
I'd like to see Dan Kirkland do good.
Damn.
I don't really see him making out of the corner. Like I could maybe see him beating Felipe, but I think Tackett should win against Rocha. And if it's Dan versus, I think William versus Dan or Felipe, it should be like I would imagine a quick heel hook for Tackett. I just kind of think so. But yeah, that's just, I mean, that Ignacio Santos too. I remember the seeing his run at the trials. He looked pretty damn impressive. So I don't really know if he could beat Victor Hugo though, but I don't know. But yeah, this is definitely, I don't think it's as competitive from 1 to 16 as it is in the under 80.
Oh yeah. Yeah, under 80 is insane.
There's definitely like some top dogs in this one. So yeah, I think Victor Hugo's gonna take it, honestly, and then so I got Hugo 1, Nicky Rod 2, and then Tackett as 3.
I'm really curious, and I gotta get back into that rule about the guard with the upper body control.
I wonder if it's just like as small as like wrist control, like just grab the wrist or something.
I'm very curious. I gotta do a little bit more homework on that one. Because that, to me, would be the difference between Nicky Rod versus Victor Hugo. Because if Victor Hugo's guard is limited in any kind of way as far as how he plays his guard, and he's like, has to change it for this rule set, it's once again going to favor Nicky Rod.
I would hope it's just like, dude, like 5 minutes, you guys can't punch each other, but you can just do jiu-jitsu, just go, get your rest. Hopefully it's not too. I hate it when it's like the ref is involved in the match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The main event: Craig Jones versus Gabby Garcia.
It's finally happening.
Bro, when I saw their freaking interview with Hanato,
that was amazing.
Dude,
That's
they're
so
hitting
sick.
next levels though. Okay, so
They got Hinato, the legend.
the legend. I don't even really want to make a prediction on this one, and the reason why is I'm still not convinced it's a real match. And the reason why, do think about the arm wrestling match. If we think about the arm wrestling match that they had, I think I'm like, is this going to be something similar? I just really don't know what to expect with this, and like when I watched the whole thing with Hinato, and they're like, the whole time they're just talking about like OnlyFans and like, I'm just like, guys, is this a real match? I don't know if this is a real match. I feel like this is WWE.
I mean, WWE, they have matches. You know, the match
Yeah,
happens
where,
anyways.
Where Logan Paul
Could
is
be
the
scripted.
champion,
Yeah.
right? I think he recently lost it or something, but
Don't keep up with it, but yeah, I know.
it's scripted.
He did have
right?
it.
Is this scripted? I just, the
Yeah.
question is this scripted?
I hope not. I hope it does happen.
Wouldn't it? I actually really kind of hope it's scripted. Could you imagine if like Gabby goes full WWE and like lifts him up over her shoulders and like?
That'd be sick. Choke slams him. If they script it, I hope they script it where Gabby wins, or like gets close to it, and then.
All right, I'll give a
something.
prediction. I'm going with Gabby because fuck Craig Jones, bro. I actually like Craig.
Yeah. I mean, I think if it's real and it's actually happening, I do think Craig probably just gets in there and leg locks her pretty quickly.
But that's the whole thing where it kind of got cringe, bro. Where they're like, if I leg lock you, we do an OnlyFans together. I'm like, whoa, bro. For me, that's like a little bit of a really uncomfortable.
I mean, all right, you don't have to watch it.
I'm not gonna watch
I'm not-
it.
yeah,
I'm
I'm
not
not
gonna
gonna,
watch it.
You know, that's for whoever wants to, but it's for Craig. You know,
I think it's for Craig.
It's for Craig.
So, I think this might have been the most intricate, elaborate plan on how to woo a woman over.
that's the only goal he really needs.
That's what maybe that's what this is all about. He just secretly wanted
It's all an elaborate scheme.
This is an elaborate scheme to get closer to Gabby and try to win her over.
Get an OnlyFans collab with Gabby Garcia.
Well, guys, those are the CGI predictions. Hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned for more.